Welcome to Behind the Campaign, the podcast where marketers pull back the curtain on some of their favorite marketing campaigns. I'm joined today by Jack Shaw, who is the co-founder of Laykhaus. Welcome, Jack.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here.
Sure. So let's begin by telling our listeners and our watchers a little bit about Laykhaus, because you're not just an ordinary candle company.
No, so Lakehouse is based in Canada. So we like to think of ourselves as more of an intentional fashion house with products that bring the lake into the home. So we're inspired by different lakes across the world, and one of our key products that we make is candles and home scents. So yes, and we started back in 2021. So we've been going for about 4 years now. We have lots of fun. We have so much fun with designing the products. So it's great that I was able to, bring our love for all things nature into our work. Yeah.
That's very awesome. You guys have a high focus on ecology and the environment, and I think that's just a great aspect to bring into those types of products. Today, we're talking about some collaborations that you have done, but one specifically, which is with Sonora Resorts, which is right off of the coast of Vancouver, up near you. How did this collaboration come about? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Sonora Resort is a very incredible. It's a really incredible space itself. The nature and the environment around the resort is the luxury itself, and part of what we do as Lakehouse is really it's as much about storytelling and about evoking memories with these scents. So there was a natural fit there in terms of how this collaboration came about. So we like to partner with organizations that really focus on the environmental aspects of what they do. There has to be real alignment there. And the hotel itself, they create these incredible luxury experiences for their guests and these memories. We create these beautiful environments with our scents. So there was a natural alignment for us to kind of partner on doing something that would provide a really unique experience for their customers and for the people that go and visit this amazing space. So it was a challenge for us in terms of how do we work with such an incredible brand, such as Sonora Resort. They are part of the Relais and Chateau group, so they're a wilderness retreat. And yeah, it was an interesting challenge. We worked with the team to identify what that whole piece could look like, but really it was grounded in a shared appreciation for all things nature. And yeah.
So I'm curious about, you did candles for them. Your wife also did some artwork, I understand.
No.
No,
No,
I
we'll
got
have to
that
get that
wrong.
bit out. But yes, no. So we have a designer that works for us.
Oh, okay.
So, but all of our artwork is designed in-house. We worked with a local artist to initially do some of the pieces and create the art direction, and then we ended up refining it in-house. But no, my wife would love to take credit for the artwork, but she is not a designer by any means.
So did you know when you went into this collaboration that you were, all of the pieces and parts that were going to go into it, obviously the candles, some of the artwork, did you know all of that, or did it kind of evolve over time as you were working with Sonora and kind of brainstorming what some of the possibilities could be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think obviously there's some initial outreach. There's an idea of our awareness and who we are and what we've done previously, but we really approach every project differently. It's a very unique situation for everyone, and I always believe that you don't want to limit yourself in where the project could be. So there's some initial contact around, hey, we'd love to potentially work with you, and here's some of the things you've made before. But really, I approach the conversations as, what is it we're trying to do with this partnership? What's the end outcome? How do we want to make people feel? Scent is a very powerful memory in itself. So there's other things we can do beyond just the product development piece. So really, it's about finding out what that journey that we're taking people on is, and then how do we build everything else around it in a way that takes the best parts of both organizations and both businesses. So it really is a partnership from the get-go. One of the really cool, unique pieces that we did for this project was the idea of having postcards. People like to, what's the word I'm looking for? They like to unplug, right? When you're in a wilderness retreat. So we're trying to think about what's the customer experience when they're there, and what are the what are the pieces that fit with the storytelling and the products in a way that just is kind of unique, as well as and there are pieces of this project that haven't even been able to be finished yet because there's like a second and a third sort of phase of a partnership. You know, how do we evolve some of the storytelling around video production and animations and expanded storytelling? So we don't, we don't want anything to just be kind of like a one and done, right? I really believe there's more of a relational partnership that we have with our partners. So yeah, and we see what works, we pivot. So there's other pieces that we are kind of working on that come out of it because the creativity comes in all sorts of forms from everywhere, right? It's not my job as a creative director to just have all the ideas, right? It's my job to listen and refine them into a way that provides the end user with the experience that we're looking to.
And as marketers, we think of creativity often in the visuals and the writing, but creativity also comes with our other senses, right? So when we think about candles and the scent of them, how do you go about developing those? Did you develop a signature scent for Sonora, and how did you go about that? I went to a candle making store earlier this year, and so I smelled all the scents and got to mix them and things like that. But I'm curious how you guys do that.
Yeah, and I'll just take us back a step as well in that, if I think about Sonora and the things that make Sonora such an incredible place, right? Let's think about just the natural beauty they have, right? There's, we're talking about huge old growth forests, big cedars. You've got coastal scents there. You've got beautiful wildflower meadows. You've got frozen lakes. Like there's so much we can draw on from an inspiration for that. But there's also the resort itself and like, the experience as a guest there, they have fine dining and the most incredible food experiences there, as well as the fishing components, right? So there's sustainable fishing tourism with the nations that they can go on there and experience that. And then, they will then cook the foods there. So there's a whole lot of things that we could draw down on from that customer experience. And then really, when you're developing a scent, it's co-creation, right? All the way through. You're trying to think about, okay, well, what's the journey? What's the story we're telling? What components do we need to put in there? Sonora itself is only open for a specific part of the year, right? Because of access. So we wanted something that evoked that sense of summer, that sense of being up in the Pacific Northwest, that luxurious environment. So that's why we ended up choosing the scent and building the scent profile that we did, which was it's an ocean spray and lavender scent. So it's quite a complex note, but it feels very much of the place. But there's other partnerships that we have with other organizations, and one that I can think of off the top is Moraine. So Moraine Lake Lodge is one of our luxury partners, and we have a summer scent for them, which is a mountain pine and wild geranium, and it's got loads of warmth. It's very foresty but floral, and we're going to work on a winter scent for them. They're not open during the winter, but it would be nice as like a pack that we could do. So maybe that's something we would do with Sonora. But yeah, for us, the scent development really has to be grounded in what are the unique flora and fauna of the area? How does that translate into an experience? How does it, there's a whole lot of testing and development that goes into it. So oftentimes our partnerships take 12 to 18 months to develop and to come through in that design process. So yeah, it is quite involved. And my wife's the expert behind that. So I can't take any credit for that. But yeah.
Give credit where credit is due, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's oftentimes I think about our collaboration with Butch Art Gardens as well. So we made a collection of scents for them, which, we've got a plethora of amazing plant species that they have and seasonals that we could choose from. So we ended up developing a pack of 6 that they have in the minis, as well as there'll be some future development pieces that we do there. So yeah, it's a really fun process. It's creative. I love it. It's storytelling. And at the end of it, when a customer turns around and comes back and buys products again and tells you what it means to them, and that's really important. Only just this weekend past gone, we had customers coming back to our store, the holiday store that we have open, telling us that certain scents remind them of their grandparents and their cutting down of Christmas trees, or like they're spending time, and people get really emotional about this. So it's really it's amazing when a community shares that back to us. So it shows that what we're doing is more than just creating a product, right? You're giving people real experience.
So I'm curious from a marketing and creative perspective, you have this whole other dynamic around the scent that you are creating. How does that get infused or translate into the other types of creative, like the postcards and whatever else you might be doing visual? How does the scent profile and those things that you're thinking about in that brainstorming process, how does that translate into the other mediums?
It's a good question. I think ultimately the scent and the products that we produce, whether that's a candle or other products that we have in development, that's the end result. That's the kind of part that interfaces most clearly with our customers and the experience. But everything to get to that point is the pieces that we get to tell the stories around, right? So like on our website, we have nerdy information about the lakes that are around the area that inspire the scent design, right? So whether that's surface area or lake depth or the species that interact with that area. For us, all of these things kind of tie into that story. So and there's so many ways we can activate those things as well, whether it's animations or videos or all the creative deliverables are there. So when we think about scent, especially as an e-com business, right? So like how do you project and talk about those scents? That
Right.
there are stories and there's ways to do that. But that's the challenge of our team, right? It's like, how do we tell those stories in a different way? And for us, the central thing around what we do is that actually, 5% of our sales go to marine programs. So we have from the beginning said that this exists to help support and amplify healthy marine ecosystems and have healthy, abundant oceans. So for us, when I think about Sonora, one of the key pieces we had a conversation around is actually a whole part of our conversation in that initial meeting was tell me about the work that Sonora does in the area. So they work with the local First Nation for their salmon hatchery. And there's a ton of amazing work that they do there, right? Because they know that that ecosystem and their whole that is on healthy, abundant fish stocks, and it has for millennia. So there's a ton of interesting stuff that, we don't just have to focus on the scent, right? Like,
Yep.
and our customers, they really engage with that. It isn't actually, it can be tough, and marketers have to walk that fine line of it's, why do you do that, and to show up in the right way and to have the right intention behind that. So, I've got a background in conservation. I've been working in this space for a while now, and it was really important to us that if we're going to put our time and energy into growing this, that it has to be for a bigger reason than just for the sake of doing this business. And truthfully, we've been able to do way more than we first envisaged, right? And it's a very complex space to be in. But as a small business, to have delivered the impact that we have and to be part of the projects that we have, those are the things we can talk about. We don't have to always talk about our products. Obviously, we love to, but that's not our whole reason to exist. We wanna do work in the marine space.
There's companies out there who perhaps could go into what, we call in teaching marketing, we call it purpose-based marketing, right?
Mhm.
Like there's another purpose or purpose-based companies, there's another purpose behind just the product, just like you were talking about. And sometimes I think companies are a little bit shy about doing that because they're not sure how their customers will react. But I think it's all in who you're targeting, right? You're targeting those
Definitely.
specific customers who do have those same kind of values and interests in the environment and that kind of thing. And you said you went into this business, you know, for that kind of that main purpose is to have that ecological and environmental impact. How has the reception been from customers? Do you think, and you may not have this data, but do you think maybe anecdotally there's a certain percentage of your customer base that come to you specifically because you have that purpose built behind you?
Yeah, I mean that tough to measure other than what we hear directly from people,
Yeah.
which is that, and it's not something we push heavily in a sales environment because, and we make sure our team know this isn't a performative piece of marketing, right? This is a central part of who we are as founders and for this company and what we believe. But when we do inform people about the work that we're doing and we're showcasing that through our impact page, people are always amazed. And there's a piece about when we first started the business. I remember getting some advice, unsolicited, of course, right? As you do as any new business owner. But talking through this idea of what we were going to do and why we wanted to do this, I had the feedback of, well, do you want to make money or do you want to help the planet? Because you can't do both. And it really, I sat with that and thought, I just cannot believe that those are my two options. Like that business cannot be a force for good was just not, I just strongly didn't believe it. So, but what it did light a fire in me for was to understand, okay, well, in order to do this effectively, there are barriers, right? There are barriers to delivering and having a healthy business that is sustainable, but that can also do good. So what's the framework for? So that as a marketer and as a communications expert was, okay, well, how do I bridge that gap and make that work? And truthfully, it was by aligning with people that are doing the same thing. When we connected with a lot of businesses around the world who are doing this on a bigger scale than we are, but the components were the same. We just needed to apply that to our framework as a smaller business and do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
You know,
And
we
there are some big companies out there that could probably look to, like Patagonia and Bombas and,
yeah.
a lot of these other I think there's a lot more now, and maybe I just didn't notice them when I was younger, but I feel like there are a lot more companies now that are doing things that are, trying to be better for the world and not just, for the bottom line. So I think that's great. We talked a little bit about the Sonora Resort collaboration. You have done several of these now, right? With different hotels or resort chains. What lessons are you learning? Is there any others that you'd like to call out that you just loved?
I mean, honestly, they're all amazing. I think the Capilano Suspension Bridge collaboration was amazing. That was our first big collaboration in BC. And a really iconic destination, millions of visitors every year. We're really close with the team and just trying to just tap into different parts of their audience, right? So that was really cool. Butch Art Gardens again. That was a really, really cool experience. And we worked locally with Tourism Nanaimo. So we're based on Vancouver Island. So the tourism board there wanted to share some of the kind of local experience as they go out and promote Nanaimo across Canada. But I think from a lesson standpoint, as a small business, it'd be easy to think that you can't. Or, I don't know, you put a ceiling on yourself actually. And I think what we realize is that actually we have a ton to offer. And there's a lot of people who share the same visions as us. I mean, when you tell someone you're going to start a company inspired by lakes, I mean, it's fairly niche. So for us, it's like, will people, we love going out on hikes. We go out, we spend so much time at lakes or all around Europe when we lived in Europe. So the response has just been phenomenal. And we see it not just through our partners, but our customers as well. They come back and they're just so excited to see the name of a lake. And of course, Canada has 50,000 lakes in it approximately. So I don't think we'll ever run out of inspiration in Canada alone.
And the name of the company is not spelled like the traditional spelling of
No.
Lakehouse. How did you come up with that different spelling?
Well, when I wrote out and I saw the spelling, I thought that looks pretty uninspired. I felt like I could maybe do better. But we spent a lot of time in Scandinavia and Norway and stuff before moving to Canada. So we thought maybe that would be a nice, the house spelling of it. But the lake portion is actually Layk, is an old English spelling of lake. So a nod to our British heritage as British Canadians.
Very nice. Are there any collaborations, companies you guys would just love to work with that you really haven't had a chance to dive into yet, or any aspirations that you have that you want to put out into the universe and hope
I
happen?
mean, yeah. I mean, it's funny, You look at there's so many incredible places. I mean, we actually have, Lake Louise, of course, would be a phenomenal. Fairmont, someone like Fairmont would be incredible for us to work with. But I'm always excited about it's the curveball partnerships that come out that you're not really expecting. So, those are the things that you wouldn't traditionally associate. Like, what are some of those interesting collaborations that can happen? I think ultimately, what the one thing that really sets us apart is we just have this burning desire for creativity, and like I just think there's so much cool stuff that we could do. But there's hotels and parks and iconic destinations that we spoke to, and there's some exciting stuff coming for next year. But one thing I'd love to complete on was a conversation that I initiated with the BC Royal Museum, which involved some potential collaborations with some famous artists. So that would be really cool to do something in that space and kind of bring some of those pieces to life in a different way. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what 2026 brings.
Yeah, that's very cool. Is there, from a marketing perspective, you mentioned that you have a holiday store or like a holiday shop, a physical shop, I'm assuming. Yes?
Yeah.
And you have your e-commerce store. How have you balanced that? Is your store year round or is it just like a pop-up? And like how do you balance that from a marketing perspective?
Well, it's December when we're recording this, so it's nuts in my world right now. So we have a pop-up store in North Vancouver. So there's a big holiday market that's on for the whole month of December. So we wanted to kind of bridge the online experience with an in-person activation as well. So it was really cool for us to do a pop-up at there. So that's still ongoing. But we're carried in about 60 different stores across Canada and North America. So that component of our business is growing exponentially right now. We've had a lot of press and PR over the last sort of few weeks. So we were featured in, some major publications and gift guides across Canada and TV. So it's been nice to see the exposure come through there. So for me, we're trying to connect all these experiences and grow the business. And I do think at some part the bricks and mortar component, the in person is really important to just understand who your customer is and the opportunities available there. But we have some amazing partners, even in retail partners, right? Like our ability to support other small businesses across Canada and retailers who carry us. So yeah, it's an exciting time for us as a small business. So yeah, but culmination of lots of work and lots of exciting opportunities that we've said yes to basically over the past. So maybe that's the lesson: say yes to things and figure it out.
Jump in, feet first.
100%, yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for being on today. I will make sure to include the link to your website so people can purchase if they would like in the show description. I think it's such a great concept, and I actually love companies that have a purpose to them instead of, not just shareholder, stakeholder value. I think companies that can do good in the world will help lead us, into the future. So I think that's great. And I'm excited about all your collaborations. I'll be keeping my eye on you coming up to see what's coming in 2026 and good luck with everything coming up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
No problem.